Welcome to Real-Ationship Talk, the podcast where we have real conversations about love, well-being, dating, and relationships. In today's episode, I had a tantalizing conversation with Tash Doherty, who is a British-Irish American writer and author. She is the creator of Misseducated, a blog and podcast on a mission to help the world be shamelessly sexy, and the author of These Perfectly Careless Things, her spicy coming-of-age debut novel. Her latest project, The Intimacy Journal, launched on Kickstarter in late October 2025. She graduated from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, and lives in Mexico City. You can find out more about Tash's hot work in the show notes. During this conversation, Tash shares the role writing plays in helping people connect with their sensuality or erotic identity, why poems deepen the experience for someone using the Intimacy Journal. She explains how shame is such a powerful and normal emotion when it comes to intimacy and guides us on how to be shamelessly sexy, alongside treating us to a sample of 3 themes within the journal, so we have a taster of the delight to expect and explore, and so much more. You are about to get the whole RLT, aka Relationship Talk, so you're going to want to watch the entire episode. I hope you will find this conversation as deeply healing as I did. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell. I'm Teresha Young, your international wellness and relationship coach. Enjoy, take notes, and get ready to apply all key messages you take away today. Hello, Tash. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Teresha. I'm extremely happy to be here, but a little bit sick.
So we're going to take care of you during this conversation the same way that you're going to take care of us with all of the juicy
Yes.
information that you're going to be sharing. So I'm so thrilled to have you on the show because, again, this is a new dynamic, it's a new area that I'm touching with you because we're going to be talking about really the power of journaling. And
Yes.
I would love for you to share with the audience more about what led you to doing the work that you do.
Well, I always wanted to be a writer when I was younger, and I started writing my first novel when I was 14 years old, which I've now published. It's called These Perfectly Careless Things. And when I was blogging back in the early days, a couple of years ago now, I was working with one of my male friends, and I had written this article, get a man who loves your bush. And it was all
Ooh.
about how I've had experiences with men, not all men, but some. And they were really interested in, my pubic hair and everything about my body. And they just kind of were like worshiping me in a way that I found really delicious. And so I was writing about this, and my male friend was like, "Oh, this should be your niche, because I was really open about the fact that I was, having these experiences." So I think I realized that not everyone is extremely comfortable, writing about the most intimate details of their lives on the internet. But I think ultimately, as a writer, how can I add to people's lives these days? It's to be super honest about those extremely important experiences that people have in their lives. And our intimate experiences are just as important and honestly, oftentimes more beautiful than our day-to-day experiences. So I love to help people figure out how they can use writing to explore intimacy, define their desires and get comfortable with their partners and have lots of pleasure. So that's why I'm extremely excited to be here today.
Yes, thank you for that because even the words that you use in like the bush and there's some of these words that people wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable in saying because it's a bit like,
Mhm.
oh, taboo, I don't feel comfortable. But your
Yeah.
intimacy journal that you have published is a
Yes.
guided erotic poetry journal.
Yes.
And I understand that it is designed to help people explore their sensuality and sexuality.
Yes,
So
exactly.
for many people and for many listeners who are tapping into this episode, they may be curious
Hmm.
about starting it, but then also nervous about that exploration. So, what
Yes.
role does writing play in helping people to connect with their sensuality and their erotic identity?
Yeah, well, I kind of again stumbled across this by accident. Writing itself, they've done a lot of studies at the University of Texas and at Austin that, it's really good for connecting with your mental and physical health. A lot of times, actually, they even talk about how secrets can lead to health problems, right? So if you are not exploring your secrets or you're not, you'll have a lot of like, I don't know, things that you've like, you're keeping hidden from other people, it's actually bad for your mental and physical health. So based on that, I would be like, okay, well, obviously, sex is an area that we should all be, writing about, because it's something that can be quite secretive, and
Ah,
with lots of shame surrounding it as well. But actually, there's very few studies specifically focusing on the possibilities and the prospects of writing about sex and what that gives to people. So I
mm,
just wanted to give people this tool because I thought also not only is it is writing. I love writing. I think it's a great way to explore, and I've discovered so much about myself through writing. But
yeah,
also then you get to the experience of a lot of things around sex, and it doesn't have that elevated feel. Like I wanted to make the journal so that it's kind of literary. You kind of
yeah.
feel like you're kind of like learning about all these female poets throughout history, and also you're kind of delving into these very deep topics. And the poetry itself is so rich. That's why I really
Yes.
love the way that this book is designed, because it's not just a box of intimacy cards. Like the intimacy cards have good questions on them, but oftentimes, like when I was actually trying to create something like this, it was this woman's poem, Pepper Chambers' poem, which is the chapter on play.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another one we can read if you wanted to. But
Yeah.
it's when I heard that poem, I was like, I was tapping into her experience of sex, and it was so inspiring and so, moving,
Mm.
and so delicious, as I like to say as well. So, yeah, I was just really surprised by what poetry could do. And then I was like, why not use this poetry to help inspire people with their writing as well? So you're not just, writing right based on questions. You've got all this beautiful, really rich imagery from some of the best female poets around the world and throughout history, which I've now put together in the book. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, I love poems. I love
Mhm.
writing poems too. I love reading poems.
Mhm.
And what is it about poems then that creates and deepens the experience of journaling? Because I'm trying to link
Yeah.
through. How does that work?
Well, I really found like when I was reading or listening to these poems that when they have specific images in them or it's just beautiful, that really just evokes something in me. Like I'm kind of an aesthete in the sense that I love art, I love visual things, I love house museums, being in a physical place.
Mm.
But poetry as well is just another way I think we can access beauty. And there's so much amazing poetry out there. And the fact that it's kind of like erotic, like it is secretive as well. But the point
Yes.
about the journaling is that you get to explore your own secrets in this beautiful, book and experience.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, people have been like, okay, well, I would be nervous about somebody finding my intimacy journal.
Mm.
But it's something that I also have like partners buy together, or, or men as well, because men don't really have as many friends that they can discuss these things with. So
Mm.
I've also had men buy the book, which has been really interesting. But overall, I just want the experience of exploring sexuality to be something, yeah, elevated and like something that people can be proud of and something that's beautiful.
Yeah. So when you were talking there, and I was thinking about poetry, and I just thought how descriptive poetry can get. So when you're
Mhm.
journaling, you might not lean into the description so much, but with poetry, when I read poetry or I write it, is very descriptive. And when
Right.
you were talking about what led you to doing the work that you did and what you are doing, you spoke about naming desires or defining
Yes.
desires. So I had an audience question come through when I went
Oh, cool.
yeah, I went to my community and I let them know that I was going to be having a conversation with you. And I had a
Ooh,
couple of audience questions come in. And
yes.
one of the questions was, how can I explore and name my desires if I've never really identified what I like?
Right. Well, that is the goal of the prompts in the book. So, alongside the poems, there are 4 prompts with each chapter, and the goal with that is that I describe myself as the editor. I'm more the steward of these poems. Like
Mm,
so I pull the poems together, and then as the writer, I've analyzed each of the poems to find 4 themes that will help you on each of these different topics. And we have topics like ecstasy, obsession, longing, desire, nostalgia, evolution. So it's all about, it's a whole journey.
mm,
And I hope that the listeners will be inspired by those 20 different themes. And then at least one of the 4 prompts will speak to you, because it's really getting at like some of the details there. So maybe why don't I read the chapter on discovery, which I think will
yes.
probably help this listener
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
with
you.
a little bit of detail. So I'll just so each chapter has a little theme, and the theme of discovery, and then I have a little quote as well. So this is just the intro quote. And the intro quote for discovery is, our boats row out into the bright spring sun, and water drops from the oars like scattering petals.
Mm,
And that is from Murasaki Shikibu, The Tale of the Genji. So
yes.
you're kind of just getting the sense of the chapters
Yes.
themselves. So I'll read the poem, and then there's a little bio about the poet, and then I will read the four prompts for
Okay.
discovery. Running water. Yes, I move, I live, I wander astray. Water running, intermingling over the sands. I know the passionate pleasure of motion. I taste the forests. I touch strange lands. Yes, I move. Perhaps I am seeking storms, suns, dawns, a place to hide. What are you doing here, pale and polished? You, the stone, in the path of the tide.
Ooh.
Ooh, so that was by Alfonsina Storni, who lived from
Okay.
1893 to 1938. She was a Swiss-Argentine modernist poet, teacher, and playwright. She was among the first women to find success in the male-dominated arenas of literature and theater in Argentina. And that
Ooh.
was translated by Muna Lee. So
Okay.
now I'm going to share the prompts for discovery.
Hmm.
Create a guide with specific directions for a lover on how to give you pleasure. And then underneath that, you have, I know the passionate pleasure of motion. So the little prompt and little quote from the poem. Take each of your senses and pair them with your favorite places or experiences. I taste the forest. I touch strange lands. Write about what you are seeking in life, bodily experience, or connection. Perhaps I am seeking storms, suns, dawns, a place to hide. Write about someone who got in your way. Did you stand up for yourself? You, the stone, in the path of the tide.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful. I love the way how you have weaved all of that together
Mhm.
because listening to that and just processing it, I'm thinking about, I can understand how vulnerable you have to be in that moment in order to express yourself, to actually go into those layers, what you have said there,
Yeah.
particularly when you talk about the obstacles as well, like
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
stone that could be there, just completely ruining the flow, disturbing the flow.
Yeah. Get out of my
Um,
way.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
get
yeah,
out of my way,
exactly.
stone.
And those are the things, isn't it? I believe that could block you from really being the fullness of yourself, to have that
Exactly.
full expressions, because it has been the obstacles, it has been even the shame or blame or guilt. No, those feelings and emotions that
Yeah.
have presented themselves as obstacles in our
Mhm.
lives. But to
Yeah.
name it, you claim it.
Right.
So again,
Exactly.
you're able to deal with that. That's wonderful. So
Yeah. So in each of the chapters, when these prompts are inspired by the poems themselves. So I
yeah.
was kind of just like trawling through the internet, finding all these amazing, any poets that kind of really moved me and that I was
Mm.
able to actually publish, with the rights and everything. And then the prompts are just inspired directly from the poems as well. So you can kind of get that little bit of literary analysis. And then you learn
Yes,
something as well about an amazing female poet in history,
you
yeah,
do.
Alfonsina Storni. She's quite a great writer.
Yeah. So I really love that. I really love that journey that you're taking. And that was only one section that you
Yes,
put through there,
that's the
discovery.
one chapter discovery, and we
That's
have
the one.
20
Yeah.
chapters in the book. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
So I had another question come through that I think links quite well with this. It says, what
Mhm.
do I do if journaling brings up unexpected emotions like sadness or embarrassment? I
Yeah.
tend to shut down or feel overwhelmed when that happens. So would like
Yeah.
to know how I can deal with those feelings but without those tendencies. So
Yeah, that's so real. So the researchers at UT Austin really focus on this, and they actually really describe the health benefits of going into that sadness or embarrassment or whatever you're feeling. So just remember, it's temporary, right? Maybe give yourself 10 minutes or some like defined period of time. They say that, if it's extremely overwhelming, you want to
Mhm.
stop, but they really recommend, they call it free writing or just, getting all of your thoughts and stuff down there. So if you are actually experiencing sadness or,
Mhm.
you have some like difficult traumatic experiences that you've been through, writing is a really safe way to, within the privacy of your own home to really explore those things. So yeah, only you can really tell, what level is too much.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I have been through extremely traumatic things in my life. And I found writing to be an extremely great outlet for that specifically. I had a sexual assault that was like very, extremely dangerous. And, I had PTSD for 6 months after that. But I
Yeah.
really found the health benefits of writing when it came to basically just realizing that a lot of the trauma in the world is not really mine to carry, right? Like I had this experience happen to me. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm.
And part of my process in healing is writing about that and sharing that experience. And I describe it in my articles as breaking off a small piece of this dark plate. Imagine you've been handed like a glass plate and it's so gross and you're like, ugh, why is that? Why am I holding this glass plate? No, but if you break it off a little bit at a time through writing, I think it can be a really, really beautiful experience and transformative as well. So
Mm.
yes, I would encourage your listener to just kind of like dig in a little bit more, each time you're journaling, and see if you can work through it and come to some realizations about it.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of writing is that, the human brain is so complex and sexuality is so complex. It's unique and different for everyone. But yeah, you can just really surprise yourself with the things that you can discover through writing itself. So I hope that the book is a portal and a
Yes.
channel to help people do that.
Yes. So, thank you for that very vulnerable share that
Mm,
you have spoken about there, because that must have been a very, as you said, traumatic time for you.
yeah,
And you found a way to release it and to surrender
exactly.
into the experience and to what you have going forward for you. So, with your journal, then you're completing it, you're doing the prompts.
Hmm.
Do you read over it? So, for example, when I'm journaling, sometimes I might look back in a few months' time just to
Yeah.
witness the journey. So,
Hmm.
is your journal also a prompt or a tool that can be done in that way too?
Yeah, well, I actually have a special edition, which I haven't told everyone about, but on the back page of the journal, which you can see in this video,
Yes.
um, there's a QR code. So you can actually upload what you've written in the journal and share it with a community. And so I have my journal entries that I put up there so far, I have put them in the community, which has been really cool because again, I really wrote some like fun and also very deep and personal things in my journal. And I think it's a way to kind of like get people
Mm.
excited about it and like continue on the stories and things as
Yeah.
well. So you can even kind of like transform, your personal journal entries if you want to, and be part of that community. But yeah, I think it is, and there is a time element as well. And when I was doing interviews with people about reading the book and things, they were like, oh, you should be able to put the date here or whatever. But I'm like, I think it's up to people. Like, there's enough space in the book that people can kind of take it whichever direction they want to, whether they're working through it with a partner, this is something that you want to work on now, or it's Christmas, and you want to just like bundle up and
Yeah.
like get cozy with your like intimate thoughts. So I think it can really assist people. Or I had a woman who was recently like divorced and she's like in her 50s and she's wanting to travel. So, I think it can really come at a time whenever kind of works for you.
Yeah.
But the timing element is interesting. I mean, I just do a lot of writing classes and I write a lot. So I do read back sometimes over my old pieces. And I think, yeah, as you just keep going, you develop more of that voice and that, and your designs and things can change over time as well.
Yes.
But it's good to just kind of get started and just be like familiar with it and just be like, maybe at the beginning you're not going to know what you like. And then
Yeah.
5 poems in, you're like, okay, wait, actually, that's like what I want to try with my partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've spoken about partner there and you spoke about cuddling up and cozying up. So
Mhm.
once we start to explore our
Yeah.
sensuality and our erotic selves, and
Mhm.
we're like, oh, I absolutely love this. I now want to communicate this with
Yes.
my partner. How does one start that conversation? Because this might be very new for you as a person, let alone have
Yes.
to now tell your partner about
Right.
what you have discovered.
Mhm.
Is there any guidance on that?
Well, I have a whole article about this called How to Be Shamelessly Sexy, which is the notion behind my main blog and my main
Yes.
mission. And the whole area is then at the end, the third part is asking for what you want. And I say it very, very frankly with my readers that if you have a partner who is, not necessarily willing to explore or is not open to your sexual experiences, you may need to find another partner, because not everyone is going to be that interested. I don't know if you want to do butt stuff and your partner's like, I don't want to do butt stuff. And you're like, well, we're married and like, what do you think I'm going to do for the next 50 years of my
Yeah.
life? So I really just try to caution people with that a little bit. And just to say, like, I think, you can start off small, right? One thing that, for example, like I've tried to do with I'm single, but I sleep around.
Mhm.
And I tried to bring my sex toys into my, one night stands, even with my partners, because I kind of realized that I was having a lot of sexual experiences, but I wasn't necessarily orgasming or having that much pleasure
Mm.
with them. So that's one thing that I decided for myself. I just say, hey, if you're going to have a one night stand with me, here is my magic wand. Here are my three other toys that I like to use. And like, this is
Yes.
what we're going to do, So I think there are some areas that you definitely have control over. But yeah, just start with like one small fantasy or one thing at a time. And there are also fantasies in the fantasy, chapter in the book where you can talk about your sexual experiences, real or imagined. There may be sexual fantasies that you actually don't want to act on. You may be watching, like I watch certain types of porn where I'm like, okay, this is great to watch, but like I don't actually know if I would personally want to do this.
Yes.
So yeah, I would try to like figure out which of the fantasies that you've discovered you
Mhm.
actually want to act on. And hopefully your partner is, a really loving and compassionate person who is willing to listen to you, and is willing to explore those things with you as well. So yeah, I would just say start with there. And then also what you can do is also do intimacy writing with your partner as well. So you could read what you
Mhm.
guys both wrote together.
Yes.
And then see if you're interested in acting out their sexual fantasies too. So, it's a kind of a two-way street, I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
yeah,
Thank you for that share because you also just spoke there about being shamelessly sexy.
exactly.
And we're talking about intimacy here, we're talking about eroticism, we're talking about all the things. What does being shamelessly sexy look like in everyday life? Can I be shamelessly
Yes.
sexy whilst going to my grocery store? What does that look
Yes.
like?
Well, there's the three different elements of it, which I think is the way that you act it. So you need to decide or learn, what you like, believe you deserve, figure out what you want,
Mm.
believe you deserve what you want, and then ask for what you want. So that can happen in multiple different ways,
Yeah.
in multiple different aspects of your life. But I do think understanding your shame is a very core element of that. So I really write about that in the article, and then also in the intimacy journal, there is a chapter on shame because, the shame that we experience specifically as women, Brene Brown says, it's about the competing expectations of people all the time. And you're never good enough because, you can never meet everyone's expectations because there's just so many of them. So really, as women, I feel like these messages are coming at us from all different angles constantly. So the part of the first step of being shamelessly sexy is figuring out what your shame actually is and then working through that and kind of ridding yourself of that. Because again, shame is not something that it's a natural human emotion. So you're going to feel it all different kinds of ways all the time. But it doesn't mean that it should be holding you back or weighing you down in your day-to-day life. So that's why I feel like writing is also a really, really beautiful vehicle for understanding shame. And I'm even, understanding and picking apart my shame, especially around, my familial relationships with my mother or whatever those sources are. You can just really get down and, deep in terms of understanding your shame. And that's a very important way to start being shamelessly sexy.
Okay. So I would imagine that if you can, because all of those steps there, you can incorporate
Yes.
into everyday life as well, in terms of figure out
Yes.
what you want,
Hmm.
believing that it is yours. So
Yes.
if you start to build up those everyday interactions, then
Hmm.
surely you can transition that into the intimacy world, intimacy with
Yes.
yourself, intimacy with
Hmm.
another person, because you started to build up the confidence. And I think
Yes.
for many people, because they haven't necessarily explored their sexuality, it might
Hmm.
be helpful for them to practice those steps in
Yes.
everyday life, for example,
Right.
even with relationships, parental relationships, whatever dynamic you're in, at work, whenever you are out, just incorporate that. And then you start to build up that confidence, I would say.
Yes, exactly. Definitely as well. And also believing that you deserve what you want. The
Yeah.
second part is really about self-esteem and saying that your needs matter, your pleasure matters, your happiness matters, all these kinds of things. So it's really an all-encompassing, I would say, philosophy for life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, the specific article that I've written on how to be shamelessly sexy is quite long. And I'm like, maybe that should be my next book. Because there's a lot of different aspects that you
Yeah.
can explore with that. I also think like the point about it is that it's a little bit silly. It's a little bit fun. You know what I mean? Like this is not like a serious endeavor. Because ultimately these are very human and like imperfect interactions and people that we are, right? We wanna just work on ourselves, but also not have this ideal of perfectionism that we're like working towards. So
Mm,
it's more just about like, yes, acknowledging your shame, and then just being a little bit more shameless and a little bit more bold
yes.
in our different interactions and things in our lives
Yeah.
and having lots of fun.
And what you said, they're having lots of fun with it. So whilst
Hmm.
journaling, because for me, I think about creating an experience. So where I can,
Hmm.
and you've spoken about tapping into different senses there when you read out that poem. So
Yes,
is there an ideal environment, a setting? Would you like candles? Like, is there some sort
exactly.
of energy that you bring into
Yeah.
the journaling too?
Well, I think that you can definitely do some rituals around journaling. Like I say, if you
Mm,
want to get a cup of tea or you want to light a candle while you're doing it, that also works. But I think also the power of writing is that you can define for yourself as you're writing about it, a setting or a place. Would that look like to you? What is going to like turn you on the most? And what I also love is that like we have very, set in stone like ideals of what, our men should look like or what we should look like, these kinds of things. But for example, like I've dated a man before who used to be obese, right? So he has like a lot of excess skin, but like, did that even matter to me at all while I was like having sex with him? Not at all. So it's really about, I think, deciding what you want and not what you think society or like external people are going to tell you that you want. And that's what I think the writing helps you as well to just dig into the details. Be like, okay, well, when I went on that date with that guy, was it like, what was this about it? Was it his smile? Was it the way that he like reached his hand slightly across the table
mm,
to like touch my hand or like, just small initiations? Was it like the wink that he gave me? Just those kinds of little things. Because I think what is also so cool, as I was mentioning, for sexuality for women, is that it's so varied. Like I get turned on also when I'm writing in my journal, like
yeah.
it's like I'm just remembering experiences, like just those little sensual details. So it's so cool that like it's such a varied and it's kind of beyond definition, this thing of female sexuality. So
Yeah.
yeah, the goal of the journal is just to like help people to start to define a couple of those details, right? And like figure out what it is that really is juicy
Oh,
in their personal experiences.
oh yeah, and you're talking now, I was thinking, oh, if I really wanted to go in, I might even dress myself up in something sexy.
Exactly.
If I wanted to feel into that experience, like a
Hmm.
candle, make sure the room is dark, make it feel quite sensual if I really wanted
Yes,
to. But it's also, tapping into that feeling. How do you want to feel during those experiences? Because as you said,
exactly.
you had an interaction with a guy who had a little bit of loose skin, but it was the feeling more than the, I guess, the
Yeah,
aesthetics. So how
exactly.
you
Yeah.
felt in that moment.
Right. And I think I also really loved him and I write about him a lot in my different in my different articles. Yeah, he's appeared a lot because he gave me like the most orgasms, right? Like he
Yeah,
was extremely good at like eating me
yeah,
out and like he
yeah.
was also a barista and he was like Mexican, so he would always be like like bien sabrosa, like you're so tasty, and I'm like, okay, so you know what I mean? It's like that's what I mean is like we're just moving away from these more like boxed definitions, I guess, of like what you might find attractive in somebody,
Yeah.
and more towards their what how this is interacting in your life. And actually, there's another poem that I want to read.
Yes.
It's called Play. Well, it's in the play chapter, and I think I just want to read this one because it's so. This is actually the chapter that inspired the book in the first place. So I want
Okay.
to pay homage to Pepper Chambers, who is a writer from my writing class. So
Yes.
I will read the quote at the beginning of the poem and then yeah, so the quote for play is there is no sinner like a young saint. And that's from Afra Ben in The
Mm,
Rover. So this poem is the one that inspired the whole thing. I listened to this poem at an open mic
okay.
virtually and this is the poem. It's called Can I?
Mm,
Can I take a trip, skinny dip in the center of your amber pools of honey? Can I bask in the heat, reflecting from your teeth as you part your lips to speak? Can I get to know you? Because your mind is chocolate I want to be dipped in. Your soul is life, like insulin. Your body tells stories with nasty rhymes. Your skin traps rainbows, ready for the sun to mine. Colors so deep, I feel like I could drown, but I'm afraid to touch, feel like I'd feel too much. So, can I get to know you? Can I lie on your treasure chest while you cool me with a winking eye, like palm trees swaying by? Don't ask why, just answer, can I?
Ooh,
So this is by Pepper Chambers. She was born in 1970. And a note from the poet, she said, Can I is a craving to be seen. It's from Harlem's Night Cabaret, my 1940s burlesque show about love. And here are the prompts for play. Write about skinny dipping. Can I take a trip? Skinny dip in the center of your amber pools of honey. Write about a time when you were bad, dirty, nasty, naughty, etc. Your body tells stories with nasty rhymes. Write about a memorable flirting experience or pickup line. So, can I get to know you? Describe your secret language of pet names or code words with a partner. Don't ask why, just answer.
wow. Wow, wow, wow. There were layers of description, and I was just actually, it brought me into my imagination, that poem. I just thought,
Yes.
absolutely. And even the last part, can I? Oh,
Yes.
seeking, is that like the final mic drop? It's like, can I? Like after I've experienced all that, like, can I? Oh,
Yeah.
what
I
a
know.
question.
So when Pepper read her poem at this open mic, yeah, it just really, really got me excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. It's a lesson of love, but it's also about the intensity, where
It
she's
was.
like, I'm imagining myself like sitting at a bar, like twirling my hair as I'm like flirting with somebody, it's like it's so provocative. And then I just love the playfulness of it, as well. That's why I chose it for the chapter on play. Yeah, it was just so awesome.
Absolutely. And I was
Yeah.
like, can I? Yes, you can. With that description, yes, you can. So
Yes,
really, really lovely. So there's going to be people listening to this because you said you got 20 themes
yes,
in the
exactly.
book. So
Mhm.
how did you choose these themes? I mean, 20. I mean, there must be loads.
Yeah, there was so many. There was other ones that I also wanted to do, and I don't know. There was just I don't know. There was just different ones that kind of came into my mind as I was making the book. Like that's
Yeah.
also part of this book has just been a huge labor of love. Like it is a custom designed. I got to choose the fonts. I got to choose the cover, the like chapter headers, like everything about it. And I love design, so it's been a really awesome experience to explore that. And I think when you just put that much love into a project, I enjoyed every single moment of it.
Yes.
And the chapters themselves are just like, yeah, there's, longing, desire, uh, devotion, and I also think there's some, shame, there's
Yeah.
nostalgia, awakening. So just, whatever you're kind of like feeling and whatever kind of calls you, I think there's a poem for that in the book. And just going through, I think nostalgia and those kinds of ones as well, like get at the kind of the heartbreak of the situation as well. There's another one called Reversal, which is very fun because it's basically that the Mexican poet Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, who's a nun from the 1500s, she's, was centuries ahead of her time, so she's in the book as well. But her poem is all about how as soon as you're interested in somebody, they're not interested in you, but when
Mm.
somebody's interested in you, you're like,
Yeah.
So it's all about
Yes.
that tension between the love triangles and nobody really being able to match with each other in that way. So it's just a beautiful vehicle for people to explore poetry as well.
Oh, it
Yeah.
does. And I love the way that it is creative, and I'm very much aligned with and I buy into the notion of feminine and masculine energy when it comes.
Yes.
So for me, I know that when I'm working with many of my clients, and they tend to be women who are in leadership in
Hmm.
corporate world, that they can be quite a struggle because in the leadership role, they're very much in their masculine energy. They're very much able to be in control, I suppose, but they really struggle to let themselves go in sexual
Hmm.
expression. So,
Yes.
how can somebody who feels powerful in the corporate world
Right.
step into a more integrated? Because we're not saying to
Yeah.
choose one or another. How can you become more
Hmm.
integrated so that you can surrender and let yourself
Yes.
Oh, to that.
Well, I think what's really interesting, and I've learned about this a lot from Alain de Botton as well, is that oftentimes, at least for me, I'm also financially independent, a woman
Yes.
making all my own choices, blah, 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 I'm out there in the world. I find it's even easier for me to explore submission in the bedroom because it's almost the opposite of what I'm living in my day-to-day life. And I think that's what Alain de Botton talks about is that, maybe we're all about like justice and, equality in our lives as, maybe we're a political activist or something like that. But then when it actually comes to being in the bedroom, you almost have an inversion of that, right? And that is what people can, I think, feel so uncomfortable with. So I feel like it's extremely possible to hold those two selves, right? Like I'm
Mm.
extremely, outgoing, and I believe I'm a feminist or whatever in the real world. And then in bed, I'm just like, why don't you just like pin me down and
Yeah.
bring me to the verge of death? like that's exactly what I want, right? So I think people can sometimes feel, maybe a bit ashamed of their like ulterior selves when it
Yeah.
comes to their sex lives. But I think hopefully the writing will also help and encourage people with that as well, because there are some like extremely dirty, naughty, and nasty women in this book.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
they're writing these very literary poems and then at the same time like revealing that kind of dark aspect of their own nature. So,
Mm.
yeah, I would just say just hold both of those things can be true, hold both
Yeah.
of yourselves. Yeah,
Mm. Give yourself permission to hold both of those. And it really is
exactly.
understanding the reasons what is causing that person to feel uncomfortable in the bedroom. For example, what are
Right.
they fearing? Because it's a fear that is stopping them from actually surrendering to the process.
Right.
And but sometimes it can actually be very bodily too. So obviously we
Yeah.
have our nervous system and we can go into, our various different fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever we may go into.
Yeah.
So I know that many people will be experiencing stress and overthinking,
hmm
and because of that, there was a disconnect to their
Right.
body. So, does your journal help people to feel more present in their body, so that they can explore it? Because I suppose if
Yeah.
you're going into this experience, into the journal experience, and you're feeling
hmm
stressed and you are overthinking,
Yeah.
what ways can you just lean into your body and just say, "Look, I'm going to take it out of the mind. I get it out of my mind. I just want to go straight to the body."
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a really important aspect of this experience as well. And, I don't have all the answers, but I think, one thing you can do is read this book called Becoming Cliterate by Dr. Laurie Mintz. So she's a really, really amazing human sexologist. And she talks a lot about these, the mind-body connection, those kinds of things. And I think also one thing that she really talks about is, getting out of your head and into your body. So when it comes to, you can do meditation, things to relax and like reconnect and reform that somatic connection, because as she said in her book, which I really resonated with, was that you can't have an orgasm while you're worrying how big your stomach is looking while you're having sex. Like you just
Yeah.
can't if you're too concerned
Yeah.
about the self-conscious nature of things. That's going to be really hard.
Mm.
So that's what I would say as well. And one thing that I've also explored in my writing, this is why I think writing can help us in so many ways that we might not even imagine when we sit down to first start journaling. But I've also written about I'm 30 and I recently dated this guy who was like 38 and he was a little bit, he was like kind of balding a little bit and he had like gray salt and pepper hair and he was a little bit overweight and he was drinking a little bit, but he again just was like obsessed with my body, right? He thought that I was so beautiful and so hot. And sometimes, although we want to, break away from those more stereotypical aspects of the male gaze, I felt that like, my idea of my own body was so warped by, reading Vogue magazine or whatever it is. And actually, if you just find a decent guy who actually likes you, you can really start to see your body from a different perspective. So I think that's also something that I was able to explore in my writing, because I was like, that guy specifically and writing about that experience made me feel
Yeah.
young and hot and desirable again. So that
Yeah.
can help.
It can do. And thinking about your journal then, do you take people on the journey or can you actually just go to the parts that seem more interesting to you? Is it a
Yeah.
structured way through?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it depends, right? You can choose your own adventure or you can do them, from start to finish. But I think the point about it is to have fun and to
Mm.
not take the structure of it too seriously. So just, start with whichever prompts or poems kind of like speak to you. And if you are like starting in the chapter and you're like, oh, I just don't really feel like that right now, I want to do this instead, please go for that, because I think, especially with writing, we got to write about what is interesting and exciting to us. And if you think that you should be writing about these things, right? Like only do this book if you want to do it, number one. But yeah, don't write about what you think you should be writing about. Write about what you want to write about instead.
Yeah. I absolutely love what you have created here because it feels like a really gentle way to
Hmm.
get people into the process as well. It's not saying that you have to go from 0 to 100. It is a
Hmm.
guide, as you said, it's a
Yes.
guided erotic poetry. And people who may be moving out of shame or
Yes.
being embarrassed or feeling uncomfortable, this sounds like a really soft landing to actually help
Yes.
you to
Hmm.
move to it. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love what you have created there.
Thank
Now,
you.
in terms of the book, then, where can the book
Mhm.
be found? How could people like
Yes.
purchase it, download it?
Well, the Kickstarter just finished. We actually got funded on the Kickstarter in just 12 days, which has been really awesome. And my goal right now is to set up Shopify as quickly as possible so that
Yes.
people can go buy it on Shopify. And so I will let everyone know where that can happen. But you can still find the Intimacy Journal on Kickstarter. You just can't buy it there anymore. So I will probably update and send a little Shopify link soon. But I'm also going to be running a lot of workshops in the new year as well. So each chapter I want to also do like an online writing experience together, so you can even do classes with other people, writing about creativity and connection. And yeah, so it's like it's just the beginning, I feel like, for this new wave, which is very exciting.
It is very exciting, and congratulations on having that go through on the
Thank
Kickstarter.
you.
And of course, this is an evolving episode. And so when you do get the link from Shopify, if it's not out when we release it, do get in contact with me, Tash, and I will drop it into the show notes. So it's
Definitely.
absolutely problem in doing that. So before we just kind of naturally weave myself into the next part of the conversation, which is talking about
Yes.
some of your relationship experiences, I
Hmm.
wondered if there's a closing poem that you can maybe leave
Yes.
us with before we
Oh,
move
that's
on.
a great idea. I mean, evolution is a little bit long. Let's see. Actually, let's do awakening. This is
Mm.
a beautiful one of it's like the third to last chapter. And okay, so the little quote at the beginning is called it's the phoenix must burn to emerge.
Oh,
Janet Fitch, White Oleander. And the poem to a for awakening is called 2E. The door was opened, and I saw you there, and for the first time heard you speak my name. Then, like the sun, your sweetness overcame my shy and shadowy mood. I was aware that joy was hidden in your happy hair, and that for your love held no hint of shame. My eyes caught light from yours, within whose flame humor and passion have equal share. How many times since then have I not seen your great eyes widen when you talk of love, and darken slowly with a fair desire? How many times since then your soul has been clear to my gaze as curving skies above, wearing like them a raiment made of fire. I
wow.
know. I know. That was by Sarah Teasdale. She was alive from 1884 to 1933. She was an American lyric poet who was awarded the first Pulitzer Prize for poetry for her 1917 collection, Love Songs.
Mm.
And here are the quotes for the prompts for awakening. Write about the beauty of loving someone fully and unapologetically, and that for you, love held no hint of shame. Write about a conversation where you discuss your desires with a partner. Your great eyes widen when you talk of love and darken slowly with a fair desire. Describe a person who changed your ideas on love. What reminds you of them? Your soul has been clear to my gaze as curving skies above. Write about a person or place that made you whole and happy again. Like the sun, your sweetness overcame my shy and shadowy mood. Yeah,
Gosh. No,
that's
if I
awakening for you.
it is awakening. And for me, I was really thinking about how I would respond to those prompts.
Hmm.
And that almost feels like that would be my opening chapter. For me, I feel like
Yeah.
I'd want to go straight into that because
Right.
it really gets you to unpack those experiences.
Hmm.
And obviously, there's 19 others you
Yes.
gave us to explore, and I don't know what they all are in terms of
Yes.
the themes. However, that deeply resonated with me. So
Yes.
thank you for that, because I'm sure that there are going to be many listeners out there too thinking, what a way to start.
Yeah, I think Awakening, that poem, is just so sweet. And it's all about, humor and passion have equal share. It's like sharing your life with somebody in a really beautiful way. And it's really focused on love. I think it's just, ugh, it's
It
beautiful.
is.
But the first chapter is exploration, which I won't share here. But I have to start off with something that's not too spicy because I feel like
Okay.
people need to kind of like get into it. So
Yes.
the first chapter is exploration, and it's just a short, sweet poem to kind of like dip your toe in it. So
Okay.
we kind of like warm up to the spiciest chapters for sure.
You do. It's like the snowball momentum, isn't it? The snowball starts off
Exactly.
really small and then
Yes.
it starts to get more intense, it gets larger and gets
Yeah.
more momentum there. So
Yes.
brilliant. So thank you for sharing. I will drop all of the details into the show notes in terms of
Yes.
how it can be discovered and also various other aspects there. But as part of my conversation too, because I think it leads
Yes.
quite naturally into it. You've spoken about your sexual expression, your encounters.
Hmm.
And I also like to ask my guests, in terms of your romantic experiences, what
Yeah.
have been some of your key learnings from those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of my most popular articles is called How to Achieve Orgasm Equality. And basically, I'm one of the, 75% of women who can't orgasm from penetrative sex alone. So I read a lot about, the first times I was having sex, looking up at the ceiling, kind of being a bit bored and being like, what's in it for me?
Yeah,
And so I really wanted to write a lot about how I learned to connect with my pleasure specifically and prioritize that in my sexual experiences. So yeah,
yeah,
it's and the barista helped a lot. He was extremely good at that, and we
yes.
kind of came up with some really good techniques. And so I talk openly very much about my pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good because I think for many women that would also resonate to say that I'm not getting anything really out of penetrative sex. Like,
Exactly.
what else? And then it's actually leaning into that. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to work like that
Right.
for every single person, but to start
Mhm.
to discover what does work for
Yes,
you.
exactly.
That's
And how foreplay is really, the main
yeah,
course. That's what Dr. Laurie Mintz talks about as well. I was able to interview her on my podcast and also featured her a lot in that specific article about how to achieve orgasm equality, because I think with the traditional script of heterosexual sex, there's
yes,
foreplay is kind of like lumped in together, whereas that is actually, again, the main course for most cis women. And then I also like to play around with that as well. So, we can maybe like have a bit of sex, then maybe do a bit of oral sex, and then kind of like go back and forth. I think with the script can be important.
yeah,
But basically, I think I just have been on my own journey to make sure that I have a lot of pleasure in all my sexual experiences, whether I'm with a guy for a good time or a long time.
yeah,
Um, so that's a very important part. And there's many other topics that I've explored on my blog. My other popular articles are why I don't swallow cum. I think it's very degrading, and I'm like, I'm not gonna, this is something that I'm not interested in doing.
yeah.
And my most popular article is actually so there's a sex toy called the Lioness, and it actually measures your pelvic floor contractions. So it's a, vibrator style sex toy. And I actually took microdosing, like microdosing on magic mushrooms as an experiment, right, to see
Yeah.
how that would affect my orgasms. So my most popular article is called, yes, what is it like to orgasm on psilocybin? And exploring, the specific intersection between psychedelics and masturbation. So, I kind of get up to these very fun and silly experiments.
Yeah.
And so people can check that out. Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's about discovery, isn't it? Understanding what exactly is going to be working for you, what might not work for you, but you're giving yourself
Mhm.
permission to be able to say,
Yes.
I'm not necessarily going to conform to what societal pressures might be, what cultural pressures might be. It's just
Yes.
actually leaning into your own personal experience. Just like what you said at the start, it's like, what does it mean for you? Putting
Right.
aside what everybody else might be saying, the judgments, the opinions, what
Yes.
does it mean for you? So
Yes.
also talking about what does it mean for you, I
Mhm.
also love to ask my guests, what is their personal definition of love in terms of romance? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely an emotional connection just as much as a physical connection. I really like the idea of having, somebody that I can share my feelings with and really, talk about the deep and uh, dark things that are happening. I think that romantic chemistry can kind of just be like instantaneous. And it's also interesting to try to want that, but not be able to find it. I think sometimes in day-to-day life, because it's just so, it's not a script, right? You just kind of like meet somebody and it happens. But I think ultimately somebody that you can be vulnerable with and somebody that you can, share and appreciate each other's bodies and kind of just like kind of worship each other almost, I think is a really beautiful way to think about it. But again, I would say like I don't necessarily have my own definition of love in this sense. I'm kind of like, especially with the intimacy journal, I think I love to explore the poetry just to see what other women also think about these topics because it can be so varied. And I think also one thing that I'm really open to is how people can love in different ways, and different times, different strokes, different folks, those kinds of things. Because I've had, again, one night stands, which just came at the exact right time and really helped me to connect with my body and made me feel really amazing. And then I've had more, longer term partners who like want to just eat me out and like have a great time as well. So it's just, I think that like, I love that. That's what I think is really beautiful about it is that it can mean so many different things with different people. And no two people that you're going to have as partners are the same. And that's, I think, what's kind of beautiful and interesting about it. So that's how I like to nerd out about love
Yeah.
in my relationships.
And that's great. This is why I asked that question because each response I get back is so different. It's so
Yeah.
unique. This is not the dictionary response. This is like, what
Right.
does it mean for you in terms of your experiences, your lived experiences, your hopes and your desires for the future? I just love the
Hmm.
way that you shared that, which is absolutely
Yes.
wonderful.
Thank you,
As
Teresha.
as a part and tradition on my show too, I do like to ask my wonderful guests to
Mhm.
leave the listeners with one key takeaway to help
Yeah.
them along their journey of love, well-being, and relationships. And I would love for you, Tash, to share something with the audience.
Yeah, I would challenge yourself to pick up the pen and explore an experience that you've had, which was good and hopefully pleasurable in an interesting way. And I'm hoping that people have had, if you have never had any sexual experiences, then please write about your fantasies instead. Write about what you wish would
Mm,
happen and what you want to happen. And give yourself 15 minutes and see what comes up for you. And I want you to, again, focus on the senses. So this is, sight, touch, smell, hearing, and also just how you were feeling in your body. And this can also be the physical place, the different things that were happening around you. And just trying to explore your sexuality through writing a little bit, dip your toe in, and see what you discover and try it again. If today you're not feeling super inspired, just try it a different day or look at the sky and be like, oh, that's beautiful, and let's write about that
mm,
instead. So
yeah.
yeah, I would encourage your listeners to try that.
And that's great because what you said there is that at first it might not resonate, it might not be your flavor, it might not be your vibe, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you won't entertain that again at another time. It just might not be the
Hmm.
right time, the right energy, you might not be feeling
Yes.
yourself, but it doesn't mean that you write it off. It
Right.
simply means that you may explore that theme at
Yes.
another time. So,
Yes, or maybe just write about an erotic or romantic experience that's specifically memorable to you. Maybe get one in your mind that kind of stuck out. It could be, the first time that you had sex, or maybe you did something like what's coming into my mind is something, naughty that I did behind a church when I was like 13, right? Like
yes.
it can be something quick and like silly that you did when you were a teenager, or it can be, a time that you felt especially connected to your long-term partner, just something memorable that's around your sexuality and your intimacy. And just write about that and see what comes up for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be so it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive experience. It's just the most
No.
memorable one. So you
Yeah,
just
yeah. Let's
allow
do that.
whatever comes out for you just to come out
Exactly.
and just explain that. Yeah.
Yeah, something that's at the top of your mind because there's so many different emotions that might come up with that too, like I'm imagining for me it's like I'm thinking my early teen experiences and maybe the shame around it or the kind of secrecy of it or whatever. So yeah, I would say I'll just see what comes up for you emotionally, and and try to like write about all the details of what you remember about the experience. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you can either get your pen to paper, you can do it digitally as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's so many ways in which you can actually do it. There's no real excuse not to be able to write about it, is there now? Even if
Yeah.
it's a note, even if it dictates to writing, there's still ways in which you can actually release it and let it go and
Yes.
let it go and let it flow. So,
Mhm.
Tash, thank you so much for this conversation.
Oh,
I
thank you, Teresha. I've had so much fun, and it's honestly, it's very indulgent for me to read the poetry and the prompts. So that's what I really love to do.
Yeah.
So you've really treated me very well here. I'm extremely happy.
Well, thank you, because you have treated us with a little bit of
Mm,
insight into what can be expected from your wonderful intimacy journal.
thank
And
you.
also, it is a wonderful gift that you are sharing here, because I think for many people, they have felt uncomfortable about
Yeah.
it. They don't know where to start. Well, if you
Hmm.
want somewhere to start, get the intimacy journal. Hello.
Yes,
It's like,
exactly.
that's a great way. Tash,
Yes.
where can people find you? How can they connect with
Mhm.
you? I'd love for you to share that with the listeners now.
Yeah, for sure. So my Substack is called Misseducated, Misseducated. So that's the blog that's all about how to be shamelessly sexy. And I'll be posting plenty more also about the intimacy journal there. And you can also find me at tashdoherty.com. So I'm obviously a writer, so I have two blogs because
Yeah.
that's my life. And then on Instagram as well, Tash Doherty _. And yes, I like to post little reels there and get people excited. And yeah, it's really, really fun to be able to write as also regularly for people. And I will be in touch about where people can buy the intimacy journal. And yes, we're going to sail on into 2026 and host lots of workshops and things too.
Brilliant. I am so looking forward to all of that. And what I'm
Thank
going to do,
you.
so the workshops, are they going to be online? Just for
Yes.
clarity. So brilliant online workshops. So that means that there is no
Mhm.
excuse again. Tell us where you are,
Yes.
to actually connect with Tash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop Tash's details into the show notes so that you're able to click on them and find her easily and access her easily. Tash,
Thank you,
once again,
Teresha.
thank you for the gift of this conversation. It's been amazing.
It was my pleasure,
Thank
honestly.
you. And for everybody who has listened to this fantastic or sensual conversation, tantalizing, I would like to thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your energy. And until the next episode, take good care of yourselves and others too.